I mounted the steering assembly. It looks like everything's gonna line up nice. There's no type of restriction at all. Everything seems to be moving nice and smooth. So the next thing to do would be to continue working on the steering wheel itself. And we can mount that so this way we can take it out for a test drive. That would be nice. So that's the next step. We're going to continue working on the steering wheel, and then we have to do some electrical work. So we'll see what happens. It looks lined up nice, so we should be okay. Okay, I removed the side panels that I cut for the interior, and I'm going to cover them with some fabric. My neighbor had some red leatherette, vinyl, whatever you want to call it. So I cut out a piece, and I'm going to glue them on, and hopefully I can get both sides without gluing my hands to it. And then after I glue them together, I'll install them and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, the side panels are done. They came out pretty good. I installed the one on the opposite side, the passenger side. I also covered up the bracket that I made to hold the throttle. The other thing I have to do is I'll just pop it off, and I'm going to put some Velcro behind it, and that'll hold the side panels on. The original mobility scooter was basically held together with Velcro. It kind of blew my mind. Everything was mounted with Velcro. Wasn't any problem really. Just a little tip of the day: when you go to spray the adhesive on, make sure you spray the correct side, the side that you're going to actually attach the fabric to, and not the back side. I mean, you're going to need a little bit on the back side later because you're going to have to fold it over, but yeah, your hands get kind of sticky. I'm not saying that it happened, you know, but I'm going to put both panels in, and then I'll show you what it looks like. They installed the side panels. They came out pretty decent. The back side of the driver's side. Now, all that's going to be covered with sheet metal. Here's the passenger side, and where I reinstalled the throttle instead of having it up near the dash. It's a lot easier to control from there. It's relatively simple. All you have to do is pull up to go forward and push down to go backwards. The wiring ran pretty good behind it. One thing I'm going to do is run another wire, or a couple of wires from the battery up to the front, just in case I want to install something else later on. I'm not sure what. You never know, maybe an 8-track, you know, that would be, 8-tracks weren't out in '59, so let me do that. I'm going to run a couple of wires, and then I'm going to install the side panels. I'm going to probably pop rivet them in place, so this way there's no interference with the body itself and the body comes down. That's one of the issues I got to really be careful with, because I keep running into that. Then when I'm done that, I have the seat, the original seat that came from the mobility scooter. I'm going to cover that, probably with the same stuff I used on the steering wheel. And I have to cover the back panel, or I would call it backrest or whatever. I'm going to probably use the black too, because I ran out of red. So, but that's it for now. I'm going to run some wires, run the side panels, and cover the seat. So that'll be it. Okay, the sheet metal's on. The panels are all riveted in place, or pop riveted in place. On the sides, I put screws in the front to hold the front on, because there's no clearance problem with that. It looked like everything fit nice and tight. All the bends were in the correct locations. I covered the backrest here. Also, I did do the seat, but this is pretty much set up for a child like this. When an adult gets in there, it's going to be a little bit tougher, so I made an extra seat so he can basically fit. Looks pretty good. I'm going to pull the body and do one more walk around, and the chassis is pretty much done, except for possibly working on the wheels and the tires to make them, detail them out a little bit. But like I said, the chassis is pretty much finished. Okay, I pulled the body off. As you can see, it's sitting here next to me on sawhorses. I'm probably going to take it outside and finish taking the rest of the paint off and get it prepped for painting. Plus, I also have to turn it upside down and see where I have to do some reinforcement, because there's some cracks on the front here. So I have some fiberglass. I'm gonna try to reinforce it some. But the chassis, like I said, is done except for some work on the wheels themselves. I'm gonna try to dress them up a little bit. The battery pack in here is in the back. You couldn't really see that before. The battery was actually, it comes out relatively easy. Initially, the battery was up front here. There is a post right here where the seat was, and the battery sat here. So I put it in the back to give us a lot more leg room. And I just put some wheelie bars on it and rested it on that. But all in all, I'm pretty satisfied with the chassis itself. I'm probably going to put a picture of or I already did put a picture of the original chassis of what it looked like when they made these things. They were made out of conduit, and the weight limit was 165 pounds. So I'm a little bit over 165 pounds if I want to drive it. So this is a lot beefier. The original mobility scooter was rated at 250. So that's their rating, but I'm sure you can go heavier. So I'm going to start working on the electrical, on the body, and start prepping it for paint. To remove the paint off the body, the safest way to use is baking soda. You can buy a baking soda, I guess you would call it fixture, that you pour the baking soda in and it bleeds off the bottom. But I found that just getting a bag of it and using a Harbor Freight hose with a pickup tube right into the bag seems to work just as well. So let me show you how it works. The air compressor is probably going to come on because I have it inside the garage to try to keep the noise down. So let's see what we got here. Okay, I'll show you how it comes off. Works pretty well. As long as I keep the air pressure up, I'm good, but I've got such a small air compressor, it takes a while for it to go back. So once I see it not working as well, I kind of stop, and like now, it's not really taking it off as well as it should. So I'll stop, and I'll wait for it to build up pressure again. If I had a bigger air compressor, it would probably work a lot better, but you know, I have what I have, so I'll keep at it until I finish it up today. All right, the baking soda did a pretty good job. Took 2 days, but it got most of all the red paint off and some of the primer. I just see a couple of little red spots here and there, but I'll touch them up, you know. But it seems like it did all right. It didn't damage the fiberglass at all, and it should be pretty close to being prepped for paint. A little sanding, I think, and some primer, and maybe we can put a coat of paint on this thing. After seeing all the baking soda that I seen laying on the tarp, I figured I hate to see it go to waste. So I revisited the deck lid in the back. It looks a little different now because I wet it down and washed it. It's starting to dry out in the sun a little bit. But there was an awful lot of primer back there, so I figured, well, why not? Why let it go to waste? I did notice, though, after I washed it, there are a few spots that still have red paint on them. I don't know if you can see them, but I can get them with some sandpaper. But I'm going to let it dry out and bring it inside and see if I can start doing some work on the body. I checked online, and apparently there is a web page that has a bunch of connections or addresses of where you can buy some of these parts. It's kind of vague, and if you look at the date of the last time it was updated, I don't know if these people are even alive anymore. So I decided, let me give it a shot and see if I can make a couple lenses. They don't look too bad, to be honest with you. They came out pretty nice. What they are is actually the light cover for a fluorescent light that my neighbor threw out. So I heated up a can and pressed down on it, and then after that I'll lift the can up and use a wood burning tool that has a razor end to it, and I'll trim it out. So so far I've made 4 of them. One of them was a little sloppy, so I decided to make another one. So hopefully after I get this done, maybe I'll see what I can do with the rear lights, because the rear lights need to be fixed too. So Alright, it was our first attempt to try to cast a taillight lens. The lenses I have, this one I have half of one, and the other one I have, it's a whole one, but apparently they shrink over time, believe it or not. So what I'm going to do is you see a little bit of a black line on this one here. I'm going to cut that part off, the bad part, then place the good part next to it, make another mold out of plaster, and then fill it with silicone and see what happens. Maybe make a master so I can make another one later. Or even try using the silicone. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the last mold I made, I thought it came out pretty decent, but then it shrunk when it dried out. So that doesn't help at all when it shrinks. So, I mean, I'm running into the same problems I have here already. So I'm going to do it wet. I'm going to use saran wrap. Then I'm going to put the silicone inside the saran wrap. And hopefully it'll form a master that I can either cast another one out of a urethane or some type of material that hardens, because the silicone's not going to get hard. All it's going to do is it'll get firm but not hard. So give it a shot. Alright, I filled it up with clay, pressed it down inside. After I pressed it inside, I put in silicone, and then I pressed it in again. In between I got layers of saran wrap so it doesn't stick to it. So we'll let it sit. Probably going to take a couple days because of all the saran wrap, and see what kind of form I get out of it. Maybe I get lucky. So giving it a shot. I haven't received any kind of information on if they're available, these lenses. So what could it hurt? It's only going to cost me a tube of caulking. So I pulled the silicone out of the mold that I had made. Came out pretty decent, you know, for what I was using it for, what I was trying to do. They do fit. It seemed like they fit pretty nice on the actual housing itself. It's a shame they're not firmer, because if they were, I would just put bolts right through them and use these as the actual lights. Right there where my thumb is, there and there is where the actual screw goes through. So but yeah, they came out pretty decent. I may end up using these things as a master. Either that, or I'll use the original I have here as a master for a mold. So we'll play it by ear. We'll see what happens. Put a coat of silver paint on the front wheels. Came out pretty good. The chrome paint, the other tire too, came out pretty decent. Now the tires you see are like a light gray. So what I'm going to do is paint them black. Now these tires here were the same. They're the rear tires. I got the center taped out because of the center's got chrome. So use Duplicolor tire paint, multiple coats. There's got to be at least 5 coats on here. Keeps absorbing it, so I guess that's probably why I got a few little spots. So instead of using up the whole can, I'm going to paint the other ones first, and then whatever I have left, I'll put another coat on. But I'm pretty satisfied with the color, especially the black. I am really satisfied with that. Painted the front and the back, so once the silver paint dries tomorrow, I'll tape it off and paint the front tires. Alright, the tires have sat overnight. The paints, or the stain, whatever it is dry. So what I'm going to do is pull off the cardboard that I put on there to tape it off and see how they came out. I'm thinking about getting one of those pencils and paint the lettering on it. I don't think I can go with a whole white wall. There just doesn't seem to be the space, or I'm not sure how well it's going to even stick. So the substance I put on there is pretty funky when I put it on, but it is dry, and it doesn't rub off. So let me pull off the cardboard and see what the wheels look like with the black on the outside.